Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. And today we've got a lot of stuff to go over regarding the Orioles and the Ravens as well. The Orioles just finished off their 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals, where they ultimately lost today, 11-6. It was a complete disaster in terms of the pitching. The offense did its thing. The offense went out there and put up runs. Jackson Holliday had a 2-home-run game. Ryan O'Hearn had a home run. I mean, the home runs were being hit today, but unfortunately, the pitching was just a disaster with Kyle Gibson on the mound. Charlie Morton came out there. He gave up some runs. Kyle Gibson gave up some runs. And it was just a disaster for the pitching. And the Orioles are once again in a spot where they have no momentum. Obviously, they won the last series that they played against the Yankees. But then you go into this series and, you win the first game, you lose the second game, and then you lose the third game. So, the momentum is kind of stopped again for the Orioles, and hopefully they can get it back soon. But it's not looking too great right now. They have a day off tomorrow, so hopefully they can regroup, regather, and move on forward. But as the days go on with this Orioles team, there is a lot of hard conversations that probably need to be had regarding this team, and hopefully things will get resolved sooner rather than later, but it is just a little bit of a difficult time right now for the Orioles. But talking about the Ravens, also something that we're going to go over later in this episode is the Ravens rookie minicamp also started today. That means all rookies report to camp. Even all the undrafted free agents and undrafted rookies, and also the rookies that you drafted, they all report, go through some drills, go through some workouts today, and it's the start of rookie camp, and this lasts for a couple weeks, so we start to see a good indicator on how these guys play. Maybe they're going to make the roster and stuff like that. So we've got some little quotes and stuff that some guys from the media were asking our players, and we got some good stuff to talk about there. So let's just get right into it. So starting off with this Orioles game, the Orioles will lose 11-6 today to the Kansas City Royals. The Orioles record now is at 13-20. They are now back to being 7 games below 500. And just a little disappointing what's going on over in Birdland with the Orioles. And there's a lot of stuff to go over. There's a lot of positives from this game regarding the offense, but you go back to the pitching and there's also a lot of negatives. And this is one of the few games this year where the pitching was a disaster, but the offense actually came out and performed. A lot of the time in these pitching disasters this season, the Orioles would just get blown out. And this was a 5-run game. It was 11-6, so you can maybe consider that a blowout. But a lot of the games where the Orioles pitching doesn't do its job and where the Orioles pitching gives up these double-digit run games, most of the time the Orioles offense really doesn't do anything. Usually they just kind of maybe score 1 to 2 runs because they have no motivation. But this game was really back and forth all the way up until the 6th inning. It was kind of cinema going on in the first 5 innings. Lots of home runs being hit. And there was a lot of home runs hit in this game. There was 11 total home runs hit today. It was like we were on the moon with all these home runs being hit today. But 7 home runs for the Royals. When you give up 7 home runs, that's a problem. That really is a big problem. But the Orioles had 4 home runs of their own. 2 of them came from Jackson Holliday. 1 came from Cedric Mullins, and the other came from Ryan O'Hearn. So, the Orioles went out there and did their thing on offense. And going through the offense real quick, they put up 11 total hits, scored 6 total runs. They went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. So once again, the Orioles' struggle with runners in scoring position continues. But, that is not the biggest issue with the Orioles. Their offense isn't the biggest issue. It's the health of the team, and it's also just the pitching, and then also the offense as well. So 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Obviously, we could have gone out there and scored more runs. But this team putting up 6 runs doesn't necessarily make me mad. It was really just the pitching. It was literally a home run derby for the Kansas City Royals today. and the Orioles offense did their thing to keep the game as close as they could throughout the first 5 innings, and then it just kind of got blown out of the water from there. But Cedric Mullins, again, as I said, he got a home run, went 1 for 5, got a home run. He's been struggling a little bit recently. Obviously, he started off the season great in the first month, but he kind of cooled off for, a week and a half or so. But he's back with a home run today. Gunnar with another multi-hit game. He went 2 for 4. Another multi-hit game. That's back-to-back multi-hit games for Gunnar. It's good to see him get back on track. Maybe not so much as a power hitter with the long ball, but it's good to see him get back there with his average. His average is up now to a 260, and I mean, if you remember, just like a week ago or a week and a half ago, his average was below 200 or barely at 200. So it's good to see his average go up. Ali Rutschman goes 1 for 5. He's slowly but surely moving his way up. Ryan O'Hearn has been excellent for the Orioles right now in terms of a pure hitter. He's definitely, in terms of how he's played recently in this series, and not even in this series, but throughout the year, he's been arguably the Orioles' best hitter this year. Obviously, I think Cedric Mullins is up there. Ryan O'Hearn's obviously up there. But Ryan O'Hearn has been great. He goes 2 for 5 today. He has a home run. He does have 3 strikeouts, but he did his job, getting that RBI from that home run that he had, and also having a multi-hit game. Ryan Mountcastle goes 1 for 4. Jackson Holliday, this is player of the day, obviously, on offense. Jackson Holliday has an incredible game. He has slowly but surely been heating up a lot recently, and it's really cool to see. He's sprinkled in some multi-hit games throughout the games he's had recently, and it's really cool to see what Jackson's been doing, because obviously this is someone that you look at to be a potential pillar and a potential, core piece of your franchise moving forward alongside Gunnar and Adley and Jordan and, all those guys. But Jackson Holliday, he goes 3 for 4 today, and he has 2 solo home runs. An incredible day for Jackson. He put the Orioles on the board at the beginning of the game, and then he also put them on the board to tie the game later on. So Jackson Holliday, a great game from him. 3-hit game, 2 home run game, 110%. This is his best game in the majors so far, going back to last season when we called him up, and this season as well. This is by far his best game in the majors. He's making steps to improvement. His average is at a 273, a 340 OBP, and a 443 slug. He's moving his way up there right now, and it's really cool to see for Jackson. It's really cool to see him have these improvements and stuff, even at such a young age, and he still has such a bright future ahead of him. Kobe Mayo, obviously we called him up yesterday due to the Ramon Urias injury, and Kobe Mayo, he's incredible in AAA. He has consistently over the past couple of years been one of the best players in AAA, and the reason why he's not, necessarily on the Orioles all the time is because we already have Jordan Westburg at third and also Ramon Urias at third, so it's kind of a crowded position. Obviously, Kobe Mayo has been someone that has been linked in a lot of trade talks for the Orioles. If we were to go out and trade, it's not going to happen obviously anymore, but over the offseason, and even at the trade deadline last year when we were thinking about trading for in this past offseason, when we were thinking about trading for an ace like a Dylan Cease or a Garrett Crochet, Kobe Mayo's name was mentioned obviously in every single one. He's one of the top prospects in baseball. We had to call him up because we don't have Ramon Urias or Jordan Westburg, so both of our third basemen are down. So Kobe Mayo is really the everyday third baseman until Jordan or Ramon come back. But Kobe Mayo in his first 2 games has not been great. Today he goes over 3 with a walk and a strikeout. So not great for Kobe. He didn't play great for the Orioles last year in the small sample size we saw him. But hopefully he can get it going. Again, Kobe Mayo's a great player, and for as much as I want to see Kobe Mayo be a part of this future, I really just don't know if I see a vision for him for the future. I really think that he would be in any sort of trade package we have for any sort of superstar ace or something if we were to ever make that trade. I don't even know if Mike Elias would even make a trade like that, because again, we just don't really make moves in the offseason, and we stay put and we settle for decisions and we settle for players that are significantly worse and would put us in a worse situation, which happened this year, obviously, and, with Charlie Morton, the disaster that was. Tomoyuki Sugano, obviously, he's been amazing for us. I'm not going to complain about that, but just not, obviously the Orioles front office just not being aggressive when they said that they would be, but, that's another, that's a conversation for another day, but would love to see Kobe Mayo get hot here. I do love him as a player, but just hasn't really performed in the big leagues so far. Heston Kjerstad goes 1 for 4 today. He has not been great since that little hot stretch that he's had. Handley, who was catching for us today, obviously Gary Sanchez was hurt, so Handley is our new backup catcher. He didn't do anything. Obviously, you don't expect him to do anything. Ramon Laureano was a pinch hitter. He didn't do anything, and then that was pretty much it. But the Orioles hitting, obviously, I've been talking about their hitting for a little bit now. But this was a game where people went out there and got hits and produced stuff. They didn't really produce runs, but they went out there and hit the long ball, which was kind of nice to see. But this offense needs work. Obviously, you don't have Colton Cowser, Jordan Westberg, and Tyler O'Neill, and all three of those guys, and Ramon Urias even, who you could consider an almost day-to-day player. But you have 3 to 4, day-to-day players who just are all on the IL. So it's just really unfortunate. These guys are down a lot of players. The real, highlight players on this team right now in terms of the offense is Cedric, Gunnar, Adley, Ryan O'Hearn, Ryan Mountcastle, Jackson Holiday, and that's really it. When you look at Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, Michael Handley, Ramon Laureano, obviously Ramon's been all right, but I don't look at him as a vital piece of this team. You have, when you look at the 6, 7, 8, 9 hole hitters, it's just not great. And with this offense already not playing great, you take away key parts of this offense to make it even worse, and it's kind of a disaster. But going down over to the part of the game that was just a complete disaster, which was the pitching. Once again, I've said this a million times, it seems already, and it's been, about a little over a month since the season began. But this pitching was once again horrible. Kyle Gibson got the start today. Obviously, this was a very worrisome because Kyle Gibson, in his first game, gave up 9 runs in 3 innings, and his ERA was sitting at a 22, so it couldn't get any worse for Kyle Gibson. But it did get better. Kyle Gibson did have a better start today than he did last outing. It wasn't a great start at all. He got through 4 innings, gave up 5 hits. He got through 4 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, a walk, had 3 strikeouts, and gave up a home run with an 81 pitch count, and his ERA dropped to a 14.09. When you say that your ERA dropped to a 14.09, there's serious problems with that. But Kyle Gibson goes through 4 innings, gives up 3 runs. It definitely could have been worse, but not necessarily amazing from him because we had to go to the bullpen super early in the 5th inning, where we went to Brian Baker, who gave up 3 hits and 2 runs, and 2 home runs as well. Keegan Aiken came out there, 1 inning, didn't give up a run. Keegan Aiken was the only pitcher today also who didn't actually end up giving up a run. So shout out Keegan Aiken for not giving up a run today. We used 6 pitchers in this game. Keegan Aiken didn't give up a run. Yanier Cano came in. He ended up getting credited with the loss today, so he's now 0-1 on the year. Obviously, he's a reliever, so wins and losses credited aren't the craziest stat in the world. But Yanier Cano goes 1 inning, gives up 3 hits, 2 runs, and 2 home runs as well. And then Charlie Morton comes into the game, and in a situation that doesn't really make a lot of sense. By the time that Charlie Morton came into the game was 7-5. We were losing 7-5, but when Charlie Morton came into the game, and obviously we know this with Charlie Morton and how he's played all year, and the multiple appearances now that we've seen him throughout the season. When Charlie Morton comes into the game, I would only feel comfortable with Charlie Morton in the game if we were winning 10-4, or maybe 10-3 or 9-3. That's the only time that I would really feel confident in Charlie Morton coming into the game. He's supposed to be a guy in the situation that he's in right now where you have to pitch him in the most low-leverage, low-intense situations ever to try and hopefully get him back on track. But Brandon Hyde, as the great and amazing manager that he is, We were losing 7-5. Obviously, it's a 2-run game. This game was very much still in reach. We're down by 2 runs. The offense has been doing its thing all day. They've been getting hits. They've been hitting home runs. So there is still the confidence that they can come back into this game. We're down by 2 runs. We bring in Charlie Morton, and then Charlie Morton kind of just puts the nail in the coffin in this game, much like he has in a lot of his starts as well. Charlie Morton goes 1 inning, gives up 3 hits and 2 runs, and a 24 pitch count across the inning that he pitched. His ERA sits at a 9.76. Obviously, if y'all didn't know, Charlie Morton is no longer in the starting rotation. He's purely going to be a bullpen guy moving forward because of how much of a disaster that was. But Charlie Morton just literally, gave the game away, because by the time that Charlie Morton left the inning or left the game, it was 9-5. And then at that point, you're a lot less confident in a 4-run game than you were in a 2-run game. And it was pretty much over from there. Matt Bowman came in at the very end, pitched 1 inning, gave up another 2 runs and a home run. So Keegan Aiken was the only pitcher who didn't give up a run. All 5 other pitchers, Kyle Gibson, Brian Baker, Yanier Cano, Charlie Morton, Matt Bowman, all of them gave up at least 2 runs, and all of them gave up at least a home run. So just a disaster all around from the pitching, not just the starting, but from the pitching in general. It was a complete disaster from all of it. And that was the end. That was the final time that we're playing Kansas City this season. That was the end of the regular season series, and Kansas City won the overall season series 4-2, and the Orioles lost in both of the series 2-1. So not a lot of good things going on, obviously, with that. But if you go over and look at the Orioles' schedule looking ahead, they do have a day off tomorrow, so I don't really know what that's going to do, but, hopefully they can regroup, figure some things out, and move forward from there. But we do play Minnesota next in Minnesota. We have a little bit of a 6-game road trip coming up throughout this week. This Minnesota series starts on Tuesday. Minnesota is 15-20 on the year. They've also been struggling a lot as well. Obviously, when you looked at the bottom of the standings, Minnesota was right down there with us and Colorado and Pittsburgh and the White Sox. So they've also been struggling. Obviously, Minnesota has expectations because they have they have good players on their team. They have they have some talent on offense. But obviously, the Orioles are expected to do better than Minnesota because they just have a flat out better team. But we do travel to Minnesota. The pitching matchups are very interesting. We're just going to go over the first game matchup because it's the game that's next upcoming. But it's going to be Pablo Lopez versus Cade Povich. Now, Pablo Lopez, incredible pitcher. He's been one of the better pitchers in the majors over the last few years, and he's also been one of the more underrated, I'd say, pitchers over the last few years as well. Pablo Lopez is the Twins' best pitcher. He's great. He's having a great year as well. He's 2-2, 2.25 ERA, 1.0 WHIP, 28 innings, 26 strikeouts, 24 hits, and only 2 home runs given up, and only 4 walks as well. So Pablo Lopez has had a great year. Cade Povich, on the other hand, not necessarily the greatest year. He's sprinkled in some good starts here and there, but when he gets rocked, he really gets rocked. Really gets rocked. 5.16 ERA, a 1.65 WHIP, 37 hits. 12 walks, 6 home runs. So obviously the Twins do have the pitching advantage in this game. This game is going to be in Minnesota. And all I can really say is hopefully the Orioles offense comes out to play, and hopefully Cade Povich can have a good game. And if games are just competitive, at least, if games are close down to the wire to the end, obviously you have to trust your team that they can come in and win the game, or make the plays down the stretch to win the game, whether it's your bullpen or whether it's your bats late in the game. But hopefully this game doesn't get away from us too early, because that's happened a lot this year. And all I can really say about the series or about this game really is hopefully the Orioles can take game 1, because again, they have to find their way out of this hole eventually. On the road, they have had a pretty bad record. They're 5-11 on the road, so again, they got to get out of this hole sooner rather than later, and eventually we can't just sit here and keep watching them lose. You're gonna have something's gonna have to happen eventually with this team. I don't know when it's gonna be, but it's gotta it better happen sooner rather than later. I would say, just real quick, in this upcoming 6-game road trip that we do have, I would love for the Orioles to go 4-2 over the next 6 games. I know that might be a lot to ask for the Baltimore Orioles. I know it might be a lot to ask for the Baltimore Orioles. But hopefully they can go 4-2. Actually, no. Hopefully they can go 5-1 over the next 6 games. We're in no position to sit here and say, oh, hopefully they go 4-2. No, 4-2 is the minimum. 5-1 is what I want, and maybe even 6-0 would be amazing. But this team is an a-hole. I mean, even if we go 6-0, we're still under 500. But the Orioles are 13-20 on the year. They remain 5th in the American League East. And if we go and look at the American League East standings real quick, and I know I've talked about the Orioles for a little bit in this episode, but I mean, there is a lot to discuss. It is the end of a series where you can kind of recap everything of what's been going on, and it's a good way to kind of look at the state of everything happening. But if you go over and look at the AL East, a lot of the AL East actually lost today. The Yankees lost, the Red Sox lost, the Blue Jays lost, and obviously the Orioles lost. The Yankees are still first at 19-15. The Red Sox are second at 18-18. They're 2 games back from New York. Tampa is third now at 16-18. They're on a little 2-game win streak. Toronto has fallen all the way to 4 at 16-18, and the Orioles are obviously last at 13-20. We're 5.5 games back from being first. But if you look at what's super interesting with the AL East is Toronto was first for a little bit, and then it was like New York and Toronto battling now, and now Toronto fell all the way down to 4. So reality is hitting them pretty hard there. And oh my God, I'm looking at this runs scored to runs allowed difference. The Orioles have scored 129 runs on the year, and they've given up 184 runs. They have a negative 55 differential. And if we look across the league, that is third worst in baseball in terms of run differential. The Rockies are last at minus 89. But the Colorado Rockies do play in Denver, and their pitching obviously is bad. The Colorado Rockies are going to probably have the worst pitching in baseball this year. I know I talk a lot about the Orioles pitching, but the Orioles pitching also doesn't pitch in Coors Field, where it literally is a home run derby a lot of the time when you're pitching there. And not even a home run derby, just where balls will fly and doubles and triples galore and home runs galore and all of that stuff. So again, the Orioles got to get out of their hole that they're in. All you can really do is just sit here and hope that things will get better. But yeah. And going over and talking about the Baltimore Orioles, not the Orioles, the Ravens rookie minicamp started today, which was very exciting. A lot of the rookies came out there today. Obviously, we got guys like a bunch of these players. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the list of people that are on my screen. But there's a bunch of guys. Obviously, we see Robert Longerbeam, someone who we picked up. We've got Malachi Starks in here. We got Aeneas Peebles. We've got Emory Jones Jr. We've got Mike Green. We've got all these guys who we're inviting to rookie minicamp. Obviously, there's undrafted rookies. There's the rookies that we drafted, and then there's also other people that we're inviting to tryouts to see if they can make the actual official training camp that starts here in a couple months. But just some quick little quotes to go over with the rookie minicamp. John Harbaugh did say that Emory Jones Jr., who was someone that we drafted in the 3rd round, he was the guy that played across from Will Campbell at LSU. He said that he has a labrum issue and that he's not going to practice until training camp. So it's pretty much a lock that he's going to be there at training camp. Obviously, we picked him at the top 3 pick, so we have expectations for him. So he's dealing with a little bit of an injury. And a big one, actually, was John Harbaugh was talking about Tyler Loop, who was the kicker that we drafted out of Arizona, and talking about him and the future of him maybe on the Ravens and if he's going to start or if he's going to be the guy moving forward. And he basically said that the decision at kicker this year will ultimately be a football decision. So it's going to be based off of who does better football-wise. That's kind of what we're saying right now. Obviously, Justin Tucker and the Ravens organization is waiting on what the NFL and the NFL investigators are, coming to with this stuff going on with Tucker. Obviously, the NFL has all this investigation going on with him and seeing what the situation is and talking to a bunch of different people and parties and all that stuff. So when John Harbaugh says that the decision will be a football decision, I don't necessarily believe that because I don't think Tucker's going to play for the Ravens ever again. That's just my personal opinion. I think Tyler Loop is going to be the guy moving forward. I don't think that you use a draft pick on a kicker unless that they have a real future for you, especially when you have the greatest kicker of all time on your team. Obviously, he's going through a lot of allegations and stuff like that. That will be getting settled by the league, and that's what we're waiting on right now. But I don't expect him to play another game for us ever again. I also don't really expect him to play another game for any team in the NFL. Actually, I take that back. I can definitely see him playing in the NFL again because I know some team is going to be willing to take on the allegations that need a kicker, and obviously in terms of a talent, he's too good to pass up. Even at the age that he's at, even with the season that he just had, someone is going to end up picking him up. But Tyler Loop, in the videos that I did see from him today, he did look pretty good in training camp. He was drilling 45 to 50 yards, just nice to see, obviously. But when John Harbaugh says a football decision, I don't really believe that. I think he knows deep down Tyler Loop is going to be the guy, and us as Ravens fans need to fully embrace that, fully welcome Tyler Loop into that kicking role. Obviously, it's going to be very different not seeing Justin Tucker be the guy, but you just have to move on from there. Some other cool stuff that went on was Mike Green said getting drafted by a team with a rich defensive history means a lot. Obviously, you look at the Ravens' history on defense. You look at the Ray Lewis's. You look at the Ed Reeds. You look at the Terrell Suggs. You look at the history of dominant defensive players that played for the Baltimore Ravens. And Mike Green, obviously, is held to a very high standard because of how talented and great of a player he is. Obviously, he's dealing with a lot of allegations as well. A couple allegations that happened in college that the Ravens were very much, very vocal when they said that they felt confident in drafting him. So I'm going to trust EDC, and I'm going to trust Eric DaCosta and his decision, and I'm going to trust that these allegations will get dismissed and everything will be fine, and that Mike Green's all good. Because obviously I've been through this a few, whenever the draft was going on and we drafted Mike Green, and I said my reactions to that. I think Mike Green is a top 15 talent in the draft that we ended up getting, and I think it was worth the risk taking this player just because of how good he is. If these allegations are true, obviously you have to let him go, and it's a waste of a draft pick. But I think that the risk, the upside of everything being good, like the upside of all the allegations being cleared and everything, which I do trust Eric DaCosta in. He said he was confident in drafting him. He said he was confident in the fact that these will get dismissed and that he's fine. And we just move forward with that, because as a player, Mike Green is incredible as a player. And I think that if everything goes well, he could 100% be a top 8 to 10 edge rusher in the NFL, which the Ravens do desperately need moving forward, because obviously the edge rush that we have now isn't necessarily bad, but Kyle Van Noy did a lot of that heavy lifting, and obviously he is super old, so you're going to need someone in the future, and a young, DN stud, which Mike Green is projected to be. He also said that getting drafted by the Ravens was a blessing in disguise. Obviously, he did fall to the Ravens due to everything going on. He said it's a blessing in disguise. And then he also said he's just focused on moving forward with his career. When he was asked by every team about his past allegations, he just said he's focused on moving forward with his career. Obviously, he's trying to put that aside and everything like that. We'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, everything's good. I've gone over that a lot in my recent episode, as well, talking about that. But a big one was Malachi Starks. He said that he broke down the huddle today, and he said it was an honor, and he doesn't take that lightly. Obviously, Malachi Starks is the big headline here at rookie camp. He was the first-round pick that the Ravens had. He was a top 20 talent, in my opinion, and a steal that we got at 27, and a player that fits in perfectly with the Ravens. This is my dream pick, obviously. I've gone over all the draft stuff in my episodes prior to this, but love Malachi Starks. Think he's going to be an absolute stud for us. And it's great to see that players around him and the team's already trusting him a lot as well. And And the last thing that we're going to talk about is the quote that he said. Malachi Starks said, "I love winning. I'm really excited, and I'm really excited for the vets to come back." Said he wants to be a sponge around the veterans. Has already texted with Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. So obviously we expect Malachi Starks to be one of these staples on defense moving forward, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, big things going on with the Ravens, big future going on with them as well, and things are looking good in Baltimore. And I just want to thank you guys so much for watching and tuning into this episode of Birds of a Feather. Whether you're on YouTube or on Spotify, I appreciate all the support. Make sure to sub up on YouTube, follow up on Spotify if you enjoy this content. There's a lot of stuff going on with the Ravens and the Orioles. Some stuff going on with the Ravens coming up soon is the schedule gets announced here in I think a couple weeks. I think on the 14th. So about 10 days from now, the schedule will get released. So obviously when that happens, we'll go over the schedule, we'll go over all the games in depth and in detail, and obviously any of the Ravens news going on with rookie minicamp and obviously training camp coming up as well. But obviously the Orioles are the talk of the day. Every single day baseball game is going on. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about with the Orioles, but they're in a rough spot right now. They do have a day off tomorrow, but we'll be back again for the next game on Tuesday for Birds of a Feather. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for the support again, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.